everyone. Thank you so much for joining me on another episode of Why I Love Flagler County, your local podcast spotlighting local businesses and local residents on why they love being in Flagler County. So today, I'm super excited to have my guest, Miss Lauren Ramirez, with us today. Lauren, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Of course. Well, Lauren, so I'll let her explain because I'm sure she knows a little bit better on how to explain what she does. But you're with Salus Medical Training, and basically you help them. And I know you help right now a lot with kids as well on getting that basic education on medical stuff, and for even if they want to go into the medical field or if they just need to know the basics of those, right?
Yeah. So Salus Medical Training is local here in Palm Coast. So we are just over a year in business. So very excited about that. And Salus comes from the Roman goddess of health, wellness, safety, and prosperity. So that's where Salus comes from. Some people, the non-history folks, are always wondering that. But basically, yeah. So we focus on life-saving training, life-saving equipment by selling AEDs, inspecting AED machines, the automated external defibrillators. Training varies. So we started simple with CPR. So CPR, where a skill everybody should know how to do. But from being a mother, I have 4 young children, and my children have known CPR for a long, long time. So I incorporated that into one of the trainings. There was a lot of need, and people would ask, oh, is my child old enough? And I'm like, of course. So we created basic children CPR courses that focus on that mentality. So yeah, we train children, we train adults, teenagers, we have medical camps for the aspiring medical professionals. So think of teenagers or even the young teenagers, so 11 years old, 10 years old, 15, 18, where they think they want to be in the medical field, but they're not quite sure what it entails. So we focus on those core skills to open up their horizon and let their brain start thinking, is this what I want to do, perhaps, and kind of like give them a little taste of it, taste of medicine.
Yeah. Definitely. I think there's definitely because there's such a difference between number one, seeing stuff like that on media, number two, seeing different accounts of it from people you see online, and number three, just having a little bit of experience. Whether it's not the full, it's definitely not gonna be the full experience, but at least being like, okay, this is at least the process I know that I would go through if this were to be my profession. And that's so helpful when choosing such life altering decisions at those ages. Well, yeah, so that's awesome, and I love what you do. It took me. I know my dad's been harping on me to get CPR trained, so I need to definitely talk to you about that after.
Yeah,
So
for
I'd
sure.
love to know a little bit about your story of coming down here to Flagler and Palm Coast. How did you guys find Palm Coast? What brought
Yeah.
you down here?
Yeah. So I grew up in Central Florida for, elementary, middle school, high school, and born in Washington, D.C., actually, but grew up in Central Florida. And I went to college at USF, so go Bulls. All right. Received my bachelor's in biomedical science and continued just living. I loved Tampa, so stayed in Tampa. Met my husband actually, ironically, in middle school. We were in the same class. That's something interesting. And we met back up in college our senior years. He was at Florida State, I was at USF, and we settled in Tampa. We loved it. I worked at a medical clinic as a registered medical assistant and loved it. I started teaching medical assisting. It was something never thought I'd get into, but there was an opportunity. So I took that role of instructing medical assistants and kind of like spread my wings from there while I was working as a registered medical assistant, and then continued with receiving my master's in public health. So prevention is something I really cherish. So preventative medicine is amazing. So I received my master's in public health and a certificate in health promotion and education. So while that happened, we're in Tampa, loving it, getting married, starting a family, and we wanted to find a place to settle. So our oldest at the time, only had 2 though, was going to be transitioning to kindergarten. So we decided on Palm Coast. So we had some family here and loved that it was a small town, but a growing town, obviously, as we know. So an ever growing, beautiful town. And we transitioned here and started with, our oldest starting kindergarten here. And it was perfect. So we were able to pick our house near where the schools were. So they would get to ride their bikes and walk to school. And if we ever have an activity at the schools, we're right around the corner. So that's kind of how we started here. Been in Flagler for almost 7 years, actually. Actually, I think, is it? No, yeah. So next month, 7 years is
Oh
when,
wow,
yeah.
congrats.
Yeah. So it's been a great experience. And in that time, then we had two more kids here. So it was a great decision because we wanted to grow our family in this small but growing community with great public schools. So
Yeah. Well, my friend lives in Tampa, and I've been to Tampa countless times to go see her, and it's definitely a different environment, especially for the younger kids. It's can sometimes be a little too big when you're at that age of growing. And like you said, you're able to keep them close.
yeah,
They can safely take their bikes and walk and all of those good stuff, which is something that I used to do when I lived back up in Michigan. We had a similar town-ish. So that's how I grew up as well. So that's super
yeah.
cool. So I mean, what was the major difference I think you found from Tampa to Palm Coast that you enjoyed?
Probably the traffic. So Tampa, great city, awesome sports. I went to school there and
Hmm.
I kind of grew my career starting in Tampa, but traffic here is a lot less than Tampa. I do go back to Tampa quite often. I have two sisters and a nephew that live over there, so we're there quite a bit, back and forth. But I do love Palm Coast. I think the traffic here is a lot less, and the community itself here. So since moving here, I've been able to get more involved with different networking groups and meeting different individuals with similar passions with owning a business and trying to grow a business and like filling the need of what the community needs within
Hmm.
the business.
Yeah. I-75 traffic over there can get crazy.
Yeah.
It's scary sometimes. Um, but yeah, that's so awesome. I'm super glad to hear that. I know that's a very common, that's what a lot of people have grown to love about Flaggers. Obviously, the networking, which is how, you and I met through the BNI group, and a
Yeah.
lot of the people that I had on my podcast, pretty much most, if not all people, I met through some type of networking event down here. And people just they love to share what they do. So I'd love for you to share a little bit. I mean, I think you did, but if you want to go a little bit more into what inspired you to open CS medical training.
Yeah. So my background is in higher education. So from my first start of teaching medical assisting, it transitioned into a little bit more of, associate academic dean, a director of School of Health Sciences for multiple campuses. So within that role, I was able to learn how to build curriculum, curriculum design, subject matter expert, and accreditation. So within that, there were all these things that I learned and I really loved doing. So with Salus, what I did was I took everything that I loved and I created Salus. And with that, I'm able to provide specific medical training for individuals, for example, medical assisting and phlebotomy. So I'm also a registered phlebotomy technician. And so if you're not aware of that, that's how to draw blood. So, but there's such a need here. And that's the first thing that I realized. So me being an allied health instructor, worker, just to get CPR certified, there really wasn't many options other than the fire station, which is awesome. It's just they're so limited on when they can provide training. So that was something that was a big kicker. Like, hey, if I want to get certified, which as a healthcare provider, you need to recertify every 2 years, like, you have to drive to Jacksonville, to Orlando, and it's so silly. I'm like, that doesn't make sense. So, starting Salus right away, it's like you can get local training here in Palm Coast. You don't have to drive far. And my background is higher education, health education. So it's a great experience. I try to make it fun, engaging. And that was kind of the start of it. But with intentions of more education. So there's a lot of people that live here that wish they could be doing something more, but it just doesn't work with their time. For example, they're taking care of family members, or they have multiple children, or finances. I think after COVID, a lot of people, it was hit or miss, and not everybody can just stop what they're doing and go to a 12-month program for something like a trade school.
Right.
So what I can provide now, we were actually just recently approved to provide certification. So a national certification for adults that want to be in the field. So medical assisting or phlebotomy, other allied health professions as well. But those are like my gold, my focus, my heart. So they can come through a program and learn those core skills, take a certification test, get certified, and use that to get an entry-level job here in Flagler. As you know, we've built a new hospital. Advent Health has a brand new hospital, but who's working it? So that was the thing. I personally would go to the doctor with my children, my 4 children, and still have to wait, and hope that they are getting their blood pressure correctly,
Hmm.
or is there someone even that's able to take them back, or do we have to wait another hour and a half or whatever it may be?
Hmm.
So if I can fill that need for entry level roles that are awesome careers, fun careers, then that's what I want to do. So we started that, and uh, in addition to the CPR training, so I'm super excited to hopefully fill that need in this county.
Yeah, I think that makes so much sense. There are so many things that, I mean, like you said, is people want to do a lot of these like CPR trainings just to start off with, but going to places like Jacksonville, Orlando, maybe even St. Augustine, it's not as feasible as people might like it to be. So it's so awesome that you're able to open that. And then now you're able to help other people in other fields
Mhm.
getting certified right
Yeah.
here in like their backyard. And I know because of the new Advent Health, I know some people who work there as well. So I'll definitely make sure that, they're doing all the blood pressure correctly, all that great stuff.
Yeah.
So that's so awesome that you saw that and you're like, I can do something about that. I think that's so admirable to be able to be like, okay, I can identify that this is a problem that people are having, and I want to be the one to fill it. I know I have the background, and you definitely do. Um, Before we wrap this up, I would love for you to share. I mean, you've been here for about 7 years, which in my mind is practically like a Flagler veteran. Like you've been here through everything. 'Cause, like I've only been here for like barely 2 years. But what would you recommend for people who can kind of get out there, places they can go, meet people, networking events, anything like that, just to kind of get to know their community a little bit more?
Yeah, for sure. So the first thing I did when starting a business, when I knew I wanted to start a business, I knew I needed support. So
Mm,
I have fantastic support from my husband and my children, but I wanted to also see who else in that role could help me. So I joined the chamber right away. So the
okay.
chamber has been amazing, just the learns and like the people meeting, but then it progressed to other networking uh, organizations like Professional Women of Flagler County has been great. There's Bold Ladies, there's Boss Ladies. Um, there's just so many, BNI, and within all of these networking groups, you'll find your niche. So I think for anyone that is coming to the community and looking for that, just joining one of those, you're
Mm,
able to meet people with things that may or may not interest you, and you can see which group is meant for you, and
mm-hmm.
kind of feed off of their energy and learn from each other and kind of progress. And I think that for me is one of the big things, like joining community groups and getting to
Right.
know your community.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's so intimidating when you're from an outside force and you're like, I don't know where to start, but it's just you have to start somewhere. Because I
Mhm.
know, like you said, like I know pretty much all the groups that you mentioned. And I remember the first time I went to a meeting, I was like, I don't know anyone, but I went to so many of them that like by the time I went to like just a fourth or fifth meeting, I practically knew everyone because a lot of them are in the same groups. And I mean this in the best way possible. Like you just keep seeing them and getting to know people. And then I know there was like a bold ladies and like a PWFC meeting like back to back. And I met like 5, 6 ladies at the same event like twice. Like I
Nice.
saw them at bold ladies and then I saw them again at PWFC. I was like, oh my gosh, I just So I think it's really great. It's intimidating, but it's definitely one of those things where, like you, if you have a passion and you want to get out there, you just want to talk to people. Those are great places to start.
For sure.
Awesome. Well, Lauren, thank you so much for the time today. I really appreciate it. This was a lot of fun, and it was so cool. I didn't know a lot of this, a lot of the different other stuff that you did. So it was super cool to get to know that,
Yeah.
and I'm glad you got to share that.
And we'll definitely have to get you certified because,
Right.
like,
Yes.
I think people they don't realize how many people suffer from cardiovascular disease. So like, every
Mm.
33 seconds, like for real, every 33 seconds, someone dies from cardiovascular disease. And
Yeah.
for you knowing that quick skill and just muscle memory of like how you
Mm-hmm.
could save a life, so it's definitely a skill everybody should learn, whether it's in a class or even YouTubing it on how to do it.
Right.
So.
That's a great idea.
Mhm.
I mean, not that anyone should get medical training necessarily on YouTube. You should call Lauren for that if you
Yeah,
need
definitely
that.
call me, but if there is time, at least learn CPR from somebody for
Knowing,
sure.
yeah, knowing something is better than knowing nothing. And that's, I think, the great message to take away here.
It's
Well,
definitely
Lauren,
a skill to know. But yeah,
of
I appreciate you having me here on your show.
course.
So thank you.
Yeah, thank you again for your time. I really appreciate it. And I will see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.